Rab explains it all. Math, chem, physics never fall. Subscribe and learn. Ace every test, so Rab explains it best.
Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. Welcome to this video and welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to learn how to solve markup questions exactly like the examples that you can see in the first slide. Okay, without wasting more time, let's get into today's lesson. The first thing that you need to learn, and it is really important, is the concept of markup. Assume that you have a store, and in that store one of the items that you sell is this red pen. You buy it from the factory for $1. Are you going to sell it with that $1? No, because if you do that, what is the objective of having a store? What is the profit? The main objective of having a store and selling items is to gain some profit, right? So you are going to add $2 to the price that you have paid to the factory, and you are going to sell it for $3. The $1 is going to be called a store's cost. It's the money that you have paid to the factory. The $2 is the markup. It is the amount of money that you have added to the store's cost, and $3 will be called selling price. It is the price that your customers need to pay to have this red pen. We may face two types of different questions in this part. The first part of question that you may encounter is the question is going to give you percent of markup, and it's going to give you a store's cost, and it expects you to calculate markup. It's really easy. Markup is equal to percent of markup times store's cost. But there's a really important point here. You must pay attention and be careful, because percent of markup here must be written as a number, not a percentage. Number means you must write it as a fraction or decimal. The second type of question that you may face, in addition to calculating markup, the question expects you to calculate selling price. In that case, the markup that you have calculated in the previous step must be added to the store's cost. Okay, if this strategy is complicated for you, don't worry, we are going to learn them through examples as always. The first example that we have here, a music store's percent of markup is 75%. I'm going to highlight it as I told you in previous videos. It's not going to hurt you. A CD costs the store $16. So this is a store's cost, right? Find the markup. We are going to use the first formula. Markup is equal to percent of markup times store's cost. What is the percent of markup? As you can see, it is 75%, but I must write it as a number. I must write it as a fraction or as a decimal. I taught you before how to write it as a percent, as a decimal or fraction. Here I'm going to write it as a fraction. So 75 over 100 times 16. Now, at this point, I must simplify it. I can divide both of the numerator and denominator by 25. It's going to be 3. It's going to be 4. Can I simplify it more? Of course, I can divide this one by 4. It's going to be 1. And this one by 4, it's going to be 4. So 3 times 4 will be 12. So $12 will be the markup, or the net profit that the store is going to gain from selling the CD. What was that? What was the item? CD, right? A computer store pays $8 for a computer mouse. So this $8 is a store's cost, right? The percent of markup is 50%. Find the mouse's selling price. Here, the question is asking about selling price, right? So first, we must calculate the markup with the first formula that we have learned. What was the formula? It was percent of markup times store's cost. What is the percent of markup here? It is 50%, but you must write it as a number. Here, I'm going to write it as a decimal. 0.5 times 8. So it's going to be the answer, $4. This is the markup. But the question is talking about selling price, right? So selling price is equal to markup plus source cost. I calculated the markup, which is $4, and the question gave me the source cost, which is $8. I'm going to write it. So selling price will be $12. Here we have two more examples. Let's start with the first one. In the first one, I have a source cost, which is $5. I have percent of markup, and the question is asking about markup. I told you markup is equal to percent of markup times the source cost. Percent of markup must be written as a number. So I'm going to replace it. Instead of 60%, I'm going to write 60 over 100, and the store's cost is given, which is $5. I'm going to write it here. I can drop a 0 from both of them. I can divide this one and this one by 5. It's going to be 2. It's going to be 1. And I can divide this one by 2 and this one by 2 as well. It's going to be 3. So markup will be $3. In the next example, I have a store's cost, which is $120. I have percent of markup. And the question is asking about markup again. Markup is equal to percent of markup times the store's cost. Do I have percent of markup? Yes, this is 30%, but I'm going to write it as a decimal here. So I'm going to have 0.3, and the source cost is given, which is 120. The final answer, if you multiply this, and I expect you to know how to multiply this, it's going to be $36. And this is the only correct answer of this example. This $36 is not selling price, it is a markup. It is the net profit that this store is going to gain from selling this item. Here we have two more examples, but in these examples, against previous ones, the question is asking about selling price. Okay, in the first one, we have a store's cost and percent of markup, but the question is asking about selling price. First, we must calculate the markup, the value of markup. As I told you before, markup is equal to percent of markup, which must be written as a number times a store's cost. Here, the percent of markup is 25%. I prefer to write it as fraction here, 25 over 100 times 160. So 1010 divided by 5, it's going to be 5 divided by 5, it's going to be 2. Again, divide by 2, 1 divided by 2, 8. 5 times 8 is going to be $40. Now I want to calculate the selling price. Selling price, according to the formula that I presented at the beginning of this video, selling price is equal to a store's cost plus markup. So store cost is 160 and markup is 40. So selling price will be $200. Really simple. A store cost is $60. Percent of markup is 20%. Calculate the selling price. First, let's calculate the markup. Markup is equal to percent of markup, which must be written as a number times a store's cost. What is the percent of markup here? It is 20%. I prefer to write it as decimal here, 0.2 times. And the store's cost is $60. I'm going to write it 60. It's going to be $12. This is the markup. And selling price will be equal to price markup plus the store's cost. So markup here is $12. I calculated that in the first step, and the store's cost is given, which is 60. So it's going to be $72. It means the amount of money that the customer must pay to have that item. Here you can find more examples, and I strongly suggest you to solve it at home. If you have any question or if you wanted to share your answer, please feel free and write it in the comment box. I will try to answer them as soon as it was possible for me. Thank you for watching this video.